What is going on, Nuggets Nation, NBA fans? My name is Tom Leuthner. Welcome back into Nuggets Today, presented by Fan Arch. We do have some things to cover, but before we hop into that, I do want to start with a personal note, and that is the fact that as of today, or when this episode drops, I am engaged. I did propose to my girlfriend. She did say yes. So that is just something to talk about real quick, but I'm not going to cover that in this episode, obviously. But just a personal note, and we're going to hop into this next episode. And this episode is all based off of the Young Man and the Three podcast. He recently had an episode with Cam Johnson and Peyton Watson on, and I thought the episode was truly amazing. If you get the chance to go watch it, please do. It is a fantastic episode, and I'm going to break down my overall thoughts on the episode, what they talked about, each of them specifically, and this topic, obviously, which is the culture of the Denver Nuggets fans. So they both had a lot to say about the fans and the culture and how the Denver Nuggets fans truly are. And Peyton Watson started off talking about it, and he was saying that, all the fans at the game are at the game strictly because of the love of the Denver Nuggets. And he was saying that he realized that a lot in his first year, that he would sit down on the bench and he would take in how mesmerized the fans were to be there, how into the game they were. They weren't locked into their phones, posting on social media. He said they were there, they were cheering, and they were legitimate basketball fans. And even watching the playoff games or the Denver Nuggets games on television, you could tell how into it they really are and how loud they really are. You hear everything. It's crazy. I remember watching the beginning of the playoffs this year, and even when watching the Thunder series especially, and you see and hear the Denver fans going off, the one thing that it lives in my mind, and it's the Russell Westbrook dunk versus the Thunder fans, and Russ dunking and hanging on the rim and sending the fans home, and it just like hearing all the Denver Nuggets, fans erupt. It was truly amazing. It was great. It hyped me up. I was in my house. I was cheering. Again, I think it's great. And Cam Johnson had backpacked off of what Peyton Watson was saying, and he was saying that when he was in Phoenix, especially because they were playing Denver 4 times a year, he would realize how many people were actually Denver Nuggets fans that weren't from Denver, or weren't in Denver. Nuggets fans travel. They're everywhere. He said that he would go play in New York, and he would have Denver Nuggets fans, in Brooklyn, and he had Nuggets fans there watching the games. Peyton Watson also talked about that, and he said that he's from the West Coast, and he had his basketball clinic and his basketball camp, and he had, people fly to the West Coast from Denver to, from where, I guess he's from LA, California. I don't really know where he's from. I don't think he specified, but he had his camp on the West Coast, and people came from Denver to go to his camp because they love the Nuggets and they love Peyton Watson. So, prime example, I'm from New York. I'm born and raised in New York. I just fell in love with the Nuggets organization when I was a kid, and I've always been loyal to them. I never switched up. Just a team that I love, and I'll forever give, everything I have to this Denver Nuggets organization personally as a fan. I love them. So to see where the fans come in from and are, how broad of a horizon the Denver Nuggets organization's fan base is, it's truly amazing. It really is. Now talking about, Cam Johnson, I do want to speak about Cam Johnson quickly, and then we'll get into Peyton Watson. And I continue to watch the podcast and listen to what they were talking about, and I have a very good feeling about the relationship of Cam and of Peyton Watson. They seem very comfortable around each other, which is great. I think that Cam is going to be a great leader and a great role model for Peyton Watson, and there were so many reasons about that. Cam had nothing but praise for the Nuggets organization, but he also had nothing but praise for, he starts the episode saying how good Peyton Watson is and how great of a season he had, which I think is, massive. It's massive for Peyton Watson's confidence, especially, and that's something I'm going to get into in a little bit, but I think it's great for the, team chemistry. It's great to see that they are off to a great note. They're sitting down doing podcasts together, and I think that, like I said, I think that Cam is going to be truly great to help out Peyton Watson, especially for what Denver needs Peyton Watson to do. I think that Cam is also such a mature player. Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here, make sure I have everything in. I think Cam is such a mature player, and he is a mature, mind, and he has a very high IQ of the game. We all know that. But when you listen to him talk and what he was saying, he was very relaxed on speaking about what it's like when you have bad games. He was very relaxed when speaking about what it's like when you lose. This is a guy who is a seasoned veteran in the league now. He's 29 years old, 28 years old, and he's a guy who's been on playoff teams. He was on a playoff team in Brooklyn. He was on a finals team in Phoenix. he's a guy who's always been able to help a team compete. I know the Nets is a little bit of a different story, nobody around him, but he's a role player on teams that can compete. And like I said, he's very mature. He seemed to have nothing but love and respect for Peyton Watson's game. And I think that, like I said, he's going to be a guy who can guide Peyton Watson in the right direction. So now, talking about Peyton Watson, something I want to get into, and I feel like we talked about Peyton Watson a lot recently, strictly because he is a guy who is on a contract here. He needs to prove himself, and that's something that Cam talked about. He sort of said at one point, like, Peyton, he's a great player. He's going to be great for the Nuggets or wherever the journey takes him. So I think that he also knows that Peyton's on his contract year. But it seems like all he wants to do is get better. And he was speaking about his three-point scoring. That's something I've covered, I think, a couple episodes ago. And he realized how good of a consistent three-point shooter he was and how he got better, especially in the corner last year. And I think that he wants to work on getting more consistent. And that's something he broke down. He said that he knows his role. He spoke a lot about the leadership in the locker room. And I mean, he was talking about his game, or Jokic and Jamal's game, and how he sort of sat there, studied their game, and wanted to get better based off of, what they were doing when he wasn't playing as much his rookie year. He spoke about his discipline, what he's learned, the fact that he can go out, and this is something that he said that was interesting. If he scores 12 points, he knows that's enough for his contribution. And I think that he's realizing that that's going to continue to be enough, especially with the additions that they have in Denver. And that was something that I was very pleased with, is hearing how calm and relaxed he was and how happy he was with the additions of Denver's offseason. And he didn't seem like he was upset about it, which there's some players who play on a bench, and they're very upset when you bring in guys who are going to sort of bite into their PT. And he's a guy who's going to lose a little bit of he's going to lose a little bit of playing time, especially with the additions that Denver brought in. Guys like Bruce Brown, guys like Tim Hardaway, they're going to be playing the same position. He brought up him playing power forward and how he's never used to it. And when it goes back to Cam being a leader for him, he's like, I've never played the four. And Cam immediately was just like, that's just a number. And I think, again, like, the relationship was great. The chemistry seemed to be there. Cam seems to be a great leader for Peyton Watson. I think that it could be great. So obviously I have my overall takeaways from this episode. I think that, it was nice to hear Peyton talk about the management making the right moves for Denver, sort of, going in, getting the players that they needed to get in order to win a championship. Peyton talking about his role. I think that Cam is such a high IQ player who's really patient. He seems like he could be a great role model and a leader for the younger guys like Peyton Watson, like Julian Strawther. They both have such high hopes for the Nuggets team, which I think is a massive factor that plays into Denver really winning this year. And I think they're going into the season thinking about how good Denver's going to be, which is a true fact, but also looking at it as the West got better, so we need to do what we can and put in the work that we can in order for Denver to win. Anyway, that is all I got for you guys. Today, Nuggets Nation, I will talk to you guys tomorrow, and I'll have my player breakdowns officially. I'm going to start, I think, from the bench up, go from what I think players are going to average, what I think they are going to do next year if they get a role, what I would like to see personally. There may be their stats, but that's something I will get into. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys today, Nuggets Nation. If you want me to cover anything, please let me know down below. Hit that like and subscribe button. I will catch you guys next episode.